of Engineering at Tailwind, where he evolved the system architecture to cloud-native microservices to support the growing customer base, over 1 million user accounts. He also previously served as VP of Software Engineering at PowerCost, where he led multiple engineering teams and developed an enterprise software suite. He holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Buenos Aires and a master's degree from the University of Oklahoma, both in chemical engineering. Christian Tilmany, who is Senior Director of AI Strategy and Industry Lead at Microsoft, is also one of our featured presenters. In this role, he's laying the foundation for Microsoft's acceleration of AI, and he's responsible for developing iconic partnerships, driving this narrative in the US, specifically through repeatable programs at scale. He is responsible for creating and executing Microsoft's cloud and AI strategy in the industry. He's been with Microsoft for over 25 years, and he has more than 32 years of experience where he's been building systems, scalable programs, and mobilizing teams to maximize the collective power of our partners, cloud architects, data scientists, startups, and developers in order to drive digital and workforce transformations. He is a published author and has been a frequent contributor to Java Developers Journal, MSDN Magazine, and Microsoft blogs. Big thank you to Andres and Christian for being here and for all of you listening in today. And with that, Andres, I will hand it to you.
Well, thank you, Rochelle. Thanks everyone for attending. I want to walk here a little bit about the agenda. First, I will frame the challenges that we see by working with the many customers and enterprises across various sectors of industries. Then we're going to transition to describing how we see our vision for generative AI and how we can drive operational excellence with that. And then Christian is going to be talking about how we approach this in a responsible and robust way, and then we'll together do closing remarks. Next, please. Okay, so what we have here is something that has been around for a long time. There's actually nothing super new here. You've probably seen it yourselves in your companies or the various roles that you have there. And on the left hand, on one side, we have everything that has to do with running your business. And obviously, Microsoft there has a very strong position through their products, their solutions, their partners, ecosystem, and particularly with infrastructure. On the right side is where Seeq plays a significant role, and that is to bring all the intelligence about the operations. Obviously, we know the challenge that is that these two cannot be in their own bubbles. They have to come together, and that's what we're going to describe as challenges, and where we see a lot of opportunities now, in particular with the generative AI technology to enable this to a whole new level. And I would like to say that we are super excited and thrilled to work with Microsoft because we believe, and with our customers, because we believe that it takes a collaboration arrangement and closed loop between the three parts: Microsoft on the infrastructure side of business, on the operational Seeq, and our enterprises, our customers, to solve the big challenges ahead of us. So Christian, you're going to talk a little bit more as to how you see this from your end. And you're on mute.
Nope, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's
yeah,
okay.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Andre. So, I've had the pleasure of working with Seeq for a couple of years now. The way we operate, and specifically in my role, is when setting the strategy for manufacturing, specifically with AI, we are tethered to these particular plays. And what I like to do, what I have done with Seeq is, I see Seeq as probably one of our top, if not number one, partners I've had to work with over the last couple of years, specifically around prediction and operations, and in this case, factory assistance. So this is a wheel that we use, and this is a lingua franca that we've used over the last several years, I think going on 5-6 years now, with these plays, and we try to align with specific ISVs and partners that really do a good job, a marquee job, and we consider lighthouse solutions around this wheel. From supply chain optimization, we have partners there. We certainly have partners for asset optimization, and Seeq really checks this box really, really well. And they're an exciting partner to work for. They have a very distinctive product, and they play it, to Andres' point, in the OT and IT convergence within the manufacturing space. And then that plays into how we extend that to AI. So there's probably not a manufacturing conversation I've had that doesn't include AI now. I also have the pleasure of working and running a thing called the AI Innovation Council, and Seeq's part of that, as well as an extended deliverer of these assistants with Andre. We'll be talking about that, Tina, a little later on. But so advanced technologies like AI, and very specifically with Gen AI, is something that I think the assistants really hit a sweet spot and really kind of click into what we consider the industrial metaverse with regards to this play, as well as AI itself. So thank you, Andre. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to digging in a little bit deeper.
Thank you. So we can go next now. So one of the things that I'd like to spend some time is framing what we see as challenges as we work together very closely with industries across many different spaces, in energy, in life sciences, in manufacturing, in process, in chemicals, in mining, many, many sectors, working with leading partners and customers. And we believe that we are not just dealing with a technology issue in this gap that exists between running your business and your operations. There's much more to it, and so I'll try to build a case towards that. So for us, it's really important to really understand what's at stake and why now. And one of the favorite quotes that I've heard from a customer recently about the challenges that you face is that if you're not investing in technology, you will go the way of Blockbuster. You may disappear. Things are moving fast, and whoever is able to put the right technology with the right infrastructure that enables the people to do more will get an advantage. And so here we have many things, and by nature, they're not purely technological. So whether you're facing issues about talent acquisition, retention, growth, or you're facing issues that affect the cost of your operations, or how you make your operations sustainably, not just for the environment, but for safety, for profitability, for scalability. All of these challenges, we believe, that require an approach that understands that it's not just technology or it's not just AI, and there's so much more to it. So we can go to the next one now. And so let's talk about another challenge that we hear constantly from our customers, and this is what Seeq has been focused on for the last decade, is how do we deal with the data explosion? Every year, the data doubles or even more from the previous one. And what we hear constantly from our customers is we have tons of data, so much data that we actually don't know even what to do with it. Very little of it gets utilized. And this is one area that, again, when we think about Gen AI, it's not necessarily going to solve this by itself. It's not going to bring a reduction in data. If anything, it's going to require even more. So how we deal with this in Seeq is something that I'll be talking in the further slides, and we believe we have a unique approach. And now with generative AI, we feel that we have additional capabilities to give an additional meaning and understanding to the data with things like summarization, conversation, etc. So let's go to the next one. The next challenge that we feel is crucial for manufacturing and the process industries, and we hear this constantly from our customers, is about skills, analytical skills in particular. It's really hard to attract talent, particularly in locations where factories are, remote locations, and not only to attract, but to retain and also to grow. The demands of the processes and the level of optimization that is required to run efficient manufacturing operations demands more and more. And we feel that as part of our software, what we provide, we are trying to tackle this head on, where we try to lower the barrier of entrance and lower to a bare minimum the cost of curiosity. We feel being curious and asking the right questions is a key part of solving these challenges. And again, here we'll expand on how we see generative AI really boosting the capabilities that we've built over the years. What we hear from our customers constantly is that what good is it to have the best data, the best algorithms, and if we can put it in the hands of the people who need to do something with it. So we feel talent and people are at the core of the challenges. Next, please. So in summary, as we work with industries and organizations across the spectrum, some of them very large, some of them not so much, but what we feel is that through their journey, wherever they are in the transformation of their organizations, the digital transformation, we feel that there are some successes, there are insights, but everybody is still left wanting more. And so a lot of the change of the insights are isolated, only a few people know about it. They don't scale to the point beyond a group, or small group or individuals. Particularly, as I was saying, with the challenges of attracting talent, many things, as they are isolated and remain forgotten, or they go away with time, they fade away. And there's a lot of data that is unscalable, and there's a lot of inefficiency in duplication or in not connecting the dots between the different areas of the organization, whether it's operations and engineers and data scientists. There's still quite a bit more that we need to capture. And now this is the acknowledging of all these problems as a whole. I'll talk about on the next slide about how we at Seeq and together with Microsoft think about tackling these challenges. So next, please. So the way we envision this, and this has been validated, like I said, through the many years working with our customers at Seeq, is that there's three key pieces to the puzzle to solve these challenges that your enterprises, your companies face. And I'll start on the right-hand corner with data, and then I'll move on to talking about how the experts and the domain expertise, and we'll finish with analytical skills. But again, we're talking about Gen AI, and the one thing that is recurring is that there's no magic genie. Nothing by itself will solve and put this puzzle together, and so we need infrastructure. We're really thrilled to work with Microsoft in that regard, and we need also tools and platforms like Seeq that can bring everything together, the data, the analytics, and the experts. So next slide, please, and I'll start talking a little bit more details. Okay, so let's talk about the data. One of the things that we're really excited about Gen AI is to tackle what's relevant. And Seeq, like I said, has had tremendous success in already tackling this problem and connecting to every piece of data that exists that has to do with operations. And we have a unique approach where we don't need to do a lot of pre-processing or ETL or sort of sift through that data before you need it. It's an on-demand platform, and we allow you to connect to everything, and it's at your fingertips. Anything you need, you can access with ease and on demand. And so if we go to the next slide, I'd like to show a practical example of what I mean by that. So this is just one example with a manufacturing of packaged goods, consumer products. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, we have 208 different data sources. These are data sources for operational data. They are of different kinds, historians, lab data, MES systems, data lakes, anything you need to bring your operational data into the hands of the experts and the people who are looking into optimizations. And when you look at all this data, it's millions of tags, it's billions of data points, and Seeq already has solved this problem of how we bring this together. However, we think that with generative AI and with the semantics that we've built within Seeq, we can have something even more to this, which is, what are the questions that people are asking? What are the answers that they're getting? How they are interacting with those answers and how they are collaborating. So we're really excited, again, to partner with Microsoft, where we can have now a layer of deeper understanding of all this data and all the analysis that the experts are doing already. So let's go to the next one. So again, we hear from our customers that we have solved the data problem. Now, what's next is how do the people who know the processes, who are looking into optimizing, who are looking into improving efficiency and lowering energy cost, into increasing the quality of their products, how do they put it to use? And what we hear here time and time again is that we need to lower the cost of doing that, that we need to make it accessible, that we need to make it easy, and that we need to remove the complexity away from them, and that we need to have a way that it's collaborative and that it's something that scales, that when you do it for one, just as easy you can do it for hundreds, thousands of equipments, or even sites. We have corporations that have hundreds of plants across the globe, and they need to be able to then take that expertise and leverage across their enterprise. For us, this is the key. And again, we see here generative AI not as a replacement, but we see it as something that can grow the expertise, that can help solidify the learnings that come with it, and that can make it more approachable, more shareable across the different roles. So if you go to the next one, I'll show what we at Seeq and our customers, how our software interplays with all of the various roles in the organization. And we think that this is crucial to the digital transformation and ultimately to driving ROI and success with it. All of these roles, whether it's process engineers, experts in the process, folks who do planning, equipment and maintenance experts, working together with data scientists, with business analysts, with management, this we feel is a reality that we have been able to make with multiple of our customers. And this is what really drives ROI. And again, when we talk about generative AI, what we see here is that now we have an additional layer of semantics and understanding with summarizations, with conversational capabilities that can make these interactions even more seamless, more efficient, more effective. Let's go to the next one, please. And finally, we are providers of analytic skills. One of the things that, as I mentioned before, it's really crucial is to remove the complexity away from those who are trying to analyze things. There's a lot of complexity, and that's sort of inherent to the processes and the operations that we have. But what we want to do is not translate those complexities into inefficiencies for those who are trying to take insights and make actions. And this is obviously an area where we have invested a tremendous amount of intellectual property and capabilities within our software, but also where we realized that our partnership with Microsoft, both as a provider of technology themselves through generative AI and models and artificial intelligence and machine learning, but also as a platform to scale these things, it's crucial for success. So if you go to the next one, I'm going to show here a little video. It's short of how we interact. What you see here is it starts with a question between two engineers, and then we'll show you what our assistant currently does. So you can play it now. So there's a question about an issue on a unit, and an engineer replies and goes into Seeq. Here you see our assistants, and it's asking, how can I create a graph so I can see what's going on? And as I mentioned before, one of the things that is really important for us is empowering everyone to do more. And so everything that you do comes with explanations, with citations for sources, and then it provides you with what you were looking for. Here you see a graph, which is what the user was ultimately asking for. And then you can do also follow-up questions and have conversations. And with this technology, we are really excited about the ability to not only capture insights and results, but also be able to capture the conversations and the questions. And because we know from many of our customers that these are not unique to one point in time, they will continue to repeat, and they're crucial to scaling the knowledge across the organization. Thank you. I think we can go to the next one. So in summary, I talked about the challenges, and I talked about how with Seeq and Microsoft as a partner and generative AI, we can bring these pieces to the puzzle together. And this is what we've seen in multiple organizations that we work with as the key to success, to drive ROI, to drive innovation. And if you think about this three as a whole, it's not, again, just technology. A lot of it is about a culture and driving the right tools, the right infrastructure, and the right culture. So if you go to the next one, and then this is my last one. And one more thing is, so I represent the software and product within Seeq, but we, as I said, understand that this is just beyond providing a great platform. It's a lot of it is about culture. And so we have at Seeq, through our engagements with customers, develop capabilities to help every organization where they are on their journey for the digital transformation. We have customer success representatives and analytics engineers who come from industry, and they are working together with our customers to tackle these challenges and these opportunities together. And that's also a super important part of our partnership with Microsoft, that we are really engaged with everyone to work together and bring these improvements to life. Christian, I think I'll pass it on to you now.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Andre. So let's take just a couple of steps back before I go back in and double click into what Andre was saying with regards to specifically the domain expertise that they bring and the scenarios that we were excited about implementing in their assistance. So, but taking a couple steps back here, the pace, as I think everyone knows, is crazy. It's so probably the last 20 years, 15 years, we've been talking about digital transformation. And of course, in the manufacturing space, we've been discussing Industry 4.0 and things like common data models and how AI could and has been used in very deterministic type of AI models for predictions, analytics, and that kind of thing. And then the whole world was really upended last November in 2022 when OpenAI obviously released the ChatGPT, and the fact that it was able to reach 1 million users within 5 days is really profound. And one thing we need to really consider is does that pace continue? Is it going to slow down? Is this just a hype cycle? And I think it's not. I'm a firm believer, and I've already witnessed it, and I use it every day, how much relevancy this has to business productivity and the building of these assistants. So this feature pace is really not going to slow down. In fact, it may increase. Recently we had Ignite, and this is just a few of the updates we've provided from additional co-pilots, which I'm sure you've heard about, but also trying to cement how to build a co-pilot. And Seeq was very early on. They were an early adapter of building those co-pilots, their assistants in this case. And Microsoft then partnered with them on building it, right? So, and they did a very good job of doing it. So these ISVs, these other partners like Seeq are beginning to build these things as well. But Seeq was early to the table. I've had the pleasure of actually working with a couple partners and doing that very thing, and we'll show those examples here in a bit. But suffice it to say, I think we're seeing something that I haven't seen since the tech boom of the early and late 1990s and early 2000s. I really equate it to that. As they say, software ate the world, but what we're seeing right now is AI is eating software, and it's really becoming pervasive across all technologies. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of it. Next slide. So I get asked this a lot, and I'll pivot this to what this means to Seeq and its assistant. But the partnership, we had the hopefully the foresight to partner with OpenAI early, even predating the release of ChatGPT, and that remains strong to this day. In fact, given recent events, may even consider a very stronger position, in fact. And so we have this partnership, and of course, OpenAI has their own services. But really what's distinctive is that we do have our models. OpenAI does train and host those models within Azure, first and foremost. But we provide those very specific models that have passed the tests, the trust, the safety measures, and all the assurances that Microsoft has provided in Azure, and all those SLAs that go with it. These are some of the models to date. There's many more models that this is not an exhaustive list by no means, but you have, not to get all technical, but you have a couple of GPT-4 models. They vary in cost and ability. You have smaller models where you can tune up, as they say, to get to more of the precision you're looking for. And then we provide the services to create domain-specific data. And this is really where Seeq comes in. They're providing the connections to that data, that's customer data or their customers' data, such as yourself. But also they are providing the domain knowledge to be able to tune those models. So as Andre said, it's not a genie that you can grant any wish you want. You still need to make sure that genie is controlled of the power it may have. Now it's a balancing act, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But the pace, like I said, is paramount. You have vision, that these are multi-model models that actually can do video and imagery. DALL-E 3 is a great example of that. And then you have other models like Whisper to do translation and transcription. So like I said, this is not an exhaustive list of all the things that are coming or that are already here. Next slide, please. So I'm also asked, okay, that's great, but what's different about the OpenAI models that company offers versus what's in Azure? And I mentioned the trust and safety factors and the enterprise strength. And what this really means is, the concern is that data going to be available to other customers? The answer is emphatically no. You own your data. That data still resides on Azure. If Seeq's working with you and you already have an Azure account, that remains. All that data is protected. And the same goes for any one of our customers or partners. This data is not available to OpenAI. And this, again, this data is owned by you. This data is not going to be used to improve those models. In fact, if you ever use Bing Chat Enterprise, it wipes away all of the history and all of the prompts that you've provided if you're just chatting in general. And that extends to those models that are being used by Seeq and those assistants in the day-to-day, those daily operations. And you may see those persistent chats and threads using ChatGPT. That's not the case here. It is a very different thing. And so, we're continuing to improve these models. These models, though, are just these stateless objects, right? You interact with them and you come back out, and that data is not persisted. What Seeq has done, though, is they've taken those models and they've tuned them such that they own the models. They take these stateless things and they host them in a domain-specific way that's tuned to this particular use case that that Andre's been talking about. So that's the tuning aspect of this thing. Next slide. So if you're going to take away one slide, this is probably with regards to OpenAI. Andre Karpathy, former chief AI guy over at Tesla, is now one of the chief scientists at OpenAI. He says that the new hottest programming language is English, and we agree, right? You no longer have to be really a C, Python expert. Really, you have these co-pilots to help you code and frankly get up to speed, right? You're just using natural language. But also, like I mentioned with the genie metaphor that Andre used, it does require tinkering, and that's the kung fu that Seeq provides and brings to the table. And they've done the tinkering, right? So you don't have to do that. You're working with a very custom model, and again, all that data is safe. But it does require human review, and that's where the Microsoft partnership really comes in. And I'll provide some examples of that, some of the tools and principles that we provide Seeq really on an ongoing basis to make sure humans are still in the loop. They understand what we're providing out of the box and what they have to do to keep those models tuned and avoid the drift that may occur if the market is changing. But the time to market is something we've never seen before. I was hopefully doing AI before it was cool, and the time to market was always a challenge, right? It always took a lot of data engineering. It still does in some case, and then it required a lot of tinkering with the AI models. But even though the success and failure rate was quite high, right? Although maybe a third of the AI projects really got off the ground. This is different. Time to market is there. A lot of the corpus of data is already there. You just have to refine it and make sure the answers you're getting, in this case, the assistant answers, are tuned correctly. And that's what Seeq provides. Next slide, please. So one of the things around trust and safety that we're very, very aware of, and it's in the news quite often. In fact, we are embargoed to release only those things that have been approved by legal. So we take it very serious. In fact, it's caused some delays on some of the things I love to talk about, where we have to be very conscious of that. But there's PR challenges. Obviously, there's the cybersecurity threats that have existed and continue to exist in the data that's being shared in unprotected environments outside of Microsoft. And of course, there's the regulatory things we have to stay on top of. And so we've taken all of these concerns and integrating it into to Azure. So it's really kind of a natural part of all the features like Privacy Manager and Sentinel and all the other workloads that we have are getting really integrated with all of the Azure OpenAI models themselves. And then, ultimately, we provide features such as content safety, which is allowing you to make sure and even can customize the safety, those specific elements of content that you don't want to appear at the end user. And that's where the partnership, I think, shines with Seeq, because we kind of guide them through how to configure that so what you're getting is what you expect, and it's not off the rails, so to speak, and hallucinates, right? That's something that we're very aware of. And then we have, of course, the copyright protection. So if code is generated, if there's specific insight concerns, or excuse me, IP concerns, a lot of that has been vetted. We have a whole team running IP content, running through the machine, make sure that is not being exposed. And then really going all so far as actually providing copyright protection to our partners so that we have their back in case of specific challenges. And so we continue to have that. Next slide, please. So what this is all centered on is what we call responsible AI. And this has been around well before this new hype cycle. And this includes these principles around the circle. And I've had the pleasure of working with our AI business school and actually defining and developing some of this content. And even we have tools that helps measure maturity of any one of these organizations we work with to see how mature they are. And there are tools that are really matched with all of these principles. With privacy and security, obviously that's paramount. And these actually have real tools and guidance, right? It's more than just saying it's private and secure. We have tools to guard that privacy. We have Privacy Manager within Azure. We have a ton of security products, obviously, but that's part of responsible AI. So it's not just inclusiveness and bias protection. It's privacy is very much a part of that. And then speaking of inclusiveness, we do have tools that help make sure that whatever models that Seeq actually builds, and there's not as much consumer facing, and this may not be as hyper relevant, but we're still providing those principles and those tools to make sure these models don't go off the deep end. And so with that though, there is transparency protections too. Sometimes these models, especially large language models, are black boxes. So we have tools to open up that and create more of a glass box. So there are tools within Azure, and we work with Seeq to help make sure all those models are transparent. So the decision is made, we try to understand why that was made, to kind of uncover some of the things that they can change to make sure the output is what they're looking for. And then this goes into fairness and of course the reliability of those models to make sure that there's predictability. But all of that is still needing a human in the loop. And we also have tools and even toolkits to provide the human and AI interaction, but also the tools that are actually part of the AI portal, or Azure portal rather, on using what we have. In fact, we have a thing called the Responsible AI Dashboard, and that is like a one-stop shop for all the things that Seeq uses to report on the responsible AI components, to look at the safety, to understand transparency of those models, what's actually being released. And so we continue to work and hone those things, and it's more important now than ever for all the reasons I disclosed in the previous slide. So next slide, please. So to kind of wrap this up and give this back to Andre, I've had the pleasure of actually working with both of these partners on the left, in addition to Seeq. Sight Machine is a great example of what they call a co-pilot. They've built what's called a factory co-pilot. This allows you to ask questions like, what is the equipment efficiency of a specific piece of equipment, a valve or whatever, and you can use that in natural language, and this could be an IT convergence thing as well, so you don't have to be an IT, you don't have to be a technical product support specialist to run it. You just ask the question in English, and it's the job of the large language model to bridge the gap, right? And that's where large language models come in, is they have this understanding to translate language into a semantic relevant thing. And that's exactly what the assistance in Seeq does. It takes that language, the output that you're looking for in natural language, and make sure it's semantic relevant to your data, using the large language model as kind of an engine to help make those connections, right? So it's really search on steroids. It's semantic relevance using kind of an open corpus of information to get to the point, right? And for Siemens, it's more of the code generation. It could be any type of code. In this case, it's configuration code, very specific to a Siemens product, but it actually translates what they're looking for to generate that code in language that's specific to Siemens, that maybe an end user doesn't have that knowledge. And Seeq's a continuation of this idea of having co-pilots that don't replace someone, but actually make their work much easier, make operations more efficient, and get to the bottom line much quicker whether you're a data scientist using Data Lab or one of the more high-level solutions that they offer. So with Seeq, let me kind of have Andre continue the story. I know you've already touched on the Seeq Assistant itself, but maybe you have some following comments regarding the assistant in this context.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Yeah, so what you see here on the Seeq box is something that we already have in preview with many of our customers. They are testing it, and if you're interested, there's going to be information for us to contact us so we can get you enabled and you can test drive these features. And what we are really focused as the first step in this vision that we described is to making your job a lot easier, and going from something that is a question on your mind to be able to do it in Seeq, expressing it just as you're thinking. And we're really excited, and we've got a really great feedback from our customers that this really lowers the barrier of that curiosity and that innovation, because before you would have had to either have the expertise or go read a bunch of documentation or consult with somebody who has done it before. And now you can simply ask, like Christian said, there's all of the knowledge that we have as how our tool works, and common types of analysis, for example, detecting anomalies or detecting trends or doing regressions. It's at your fingertips. And what you see there, I think it's a core tenet of how we're building this into our user experience, is that it will never just give you an answer and that's it. You will get step-by-step explanations, and you'll get references that you can continue to consult. And the interface is a chat where you not only can ask a question and get one answer, you can engage in conversation. There's features that are going to be able to enable sharing of these conversations with your colleagues, capturing these conversations as notes and information that persists and is relevant when somebody asks you another question and say, hey, I noticed you did this. How did you come up with that? That this will be available. So we see it again as a core enabler to those who are engaged in trying to bring ROI and optimizations to the processes, as opposed to a silver bullet. So I think we can go to the next one and close. So again, we're super grateful and excited at the same time about the pace of innovation and the ability to work with a great partner like Microsoft, and with the trust of many leading enterprises across the globe and across the entire manufacturing and process industry sectors. And we would love to have an opportunity to engage with you and help you go through your journey of digital transformation. And we feel that we have awesome capabilities, and that we have a good approach that will help you bring those results and insights that you're looking for. I think that's the last one. So Rochelle, maybe we'll come back.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Andres. Thanks, Christian, so much. And thank you, everyone, for the great dialogue and questions in the chat. I'd love to chat through more, any open questions that the folks on the call have. I know one of the questions that was brought up in the chat was specifically around, does the Gen AI backend use the Azure OpenAI service? And if so, can we assume the data in Seeq and the questions users input and the output is not used for any model training? I know that was touched on a bit, but I know that's such a big topic. Is there anything else you want to add? And maybe we could spend a little bit of time there, either Christian or Andres.
So maybe I'll start with the Seeq side, and then Christian, you can talk about the infrastructure. So on the Seeq side, we developed this capability where each environment for each one of our customers is completely isolated, and we obviously have been a very strong partner with Microsoft Azure as an infrastructure provider to provide those layers of security in transit at rest to protect your data and your privacy. We are super excited that we work with Microsoft, and it's a very natural extension of that model as to how we use Gen AI. So in essence, yes, we connect to the Azure AI services, and everything that you submit there is pretty much enclosed and private to your organization. So Christian, maybe you can touch a little bit more on the platform side.
Yeah, it's a question we get all the time. And you can think of it in really two flavors. You have the models that are truly stateless. And if you interact with those models on Azure and you don't tune them to a specific domain, like what Seeq has done, you fire and forget, right? So you ask the model to give you what you're looking for, through a prompt. It's very similar to all the chat interfaces you are already familiar with. It works in the same way. The model is hosted on Azure. The data isn't used. The history is not persisted. You just use it for what you want. And in fact, you can even tell exactly the output you're looking for, right? And you can even provide some data as an example to use in the request response. But all that data that you're providing in the prompt itself is not used, even especially in the stateless world. In the other world, which Seeq has done, is they've taken those models and they've tuned them. And that, provides really the next step up as far as customization goes. And because when you start, working with prompting and data, it's good, but it maybe not to be as relevant or super tuned to the specific case that that Seeq provides in their product. So they tune them, and then those models become Seeqs, right? They're the large language models, but they're tuned specifically to the Seeq, and then that data is very specific to the customer's data, right? So they're tuned to the domain, but the customer data that they use is owned, and all that stuff is still blocked off for each customer. So each customers, they're not exchanging data between customers. All that is protected. All that IP is protected in particular. And then the models are managed then by Seeq itself, right? All on Azure, but they have the responsibility of managing them. So I don't know if that answers your questions, probably a little more detailed that you were looking for, but that's the pattern that we use, is either stateless, just pure prompts, or the tuning and the ownership themselves and the deployment of those models with our partners.
That's great, and thank you for going through it. I know there's been lots of questions around that area, so thank you for walking through that. I know a common topic. Question around what steps, if any, should a company be taking now to prepare for process and other data for the AI capabilities? Like if you were to just provide some general guidance and kind of next steps they could take. Andres, Christian, either of you would love to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we put a ton of work, like I said before, is to make this as simple as possible for our customers. And so one of the key features of Seeq is that we put time series data to work, and we understand all the complexities. We've been doing this for over a decade now, and we have tons of experience of how to interpret that data. And more importantly, something that is unique to Seeq is that we believe we have what it takes for models like LLMs to make sense of this data, because we have techniques like producing capsules that are interpretations of the time-based events that have meaning associated with them. And not only meaning that is given by an algorithm, but also meaning that is augmented and expanded by humans. And so we feel like we have basically the data that these models need to put it all together and understand and be able to give you back answers to your questions that are not only correct analytically, but also make sense to you as you read them and you can interpret them. So we feel that really there's not much that you can do if you're already using Seeq. If you're not using Seeq, obviously we'd like to help you with that journey, but we see it really as a continuation of what our customers do today, not as something completely different.
Yeah, and just to double click into that a little bit more, and I think this relates to the question that Philip has, how they go about training proprietary corpus models within your own org. So you can do this in two ways. You can pluck the model and use the model in a stateless way, like I mentioned, and then during the prompting, the actual ask, the chat that you're having with that model, you can bring in your own data to make that prompt relevant at runtime. Now, as you imagine, there could be some performance hits doing that, but you'll get sometimes what you need without having to really customize the model, as I mentioned, which is the other option. Now, if you do this on a regular basis and performance is absolutely important, then you tune your model and you have that capability as well. And you can certainly do that. It's very much an art versus sometimes a science, because you have to play with the parameters to get what you want. You want to make sure that it doesn't hallucinate. So during a very long chat, for instance, it doesn't go off the rails and start speaking gibberish. That can be an issue. We're getting around that. We're mitigating it. And that's what Seeq has done, is they've tuned those models. They make sure it doesn't hallucinate. They've tethered it to data, time series data in this case, that's very specific to the use case. So make sure it doesn't do that. Now, from a general purpose standpoint, though, you could take advantage of this giant generalized model. This is the large language models, and do it yourself. And we offer that. So you just get an Azure subscription. You go to the AI Studio. There's a whole playground that you can use to generate prompts, and then even get to the point where you're tuning, and then you just deploy those models like you would any other model. They just happen to be big. So, but you would never, train a large language model usually yourself. Some folks are using open source to do that. You can certainly do that, but that's a lot of compute. The tuning is not that. The tuning is just kind of filtering down the stuff that you want, and then you add that syntactic goodness then to the model, and then you deploy the model. You don't have to retrain the entire thing from scratch.
Great, thank you. I see that there was, I think a question kind of happened in parallel there in the chat when you were both going through that. So thank you for talking through the model. There's a question in the chat. It's from a customer who's using Seeq today. I'm just going to read it off here. So it's an org that uses Seeq today using the Gen AI capabilities in Seeq. Can a person use natural language to do these things easily align time series data to account for process lags across different types of data? Process engineers do this manually today in Seeq. Sorry, my screen is going up a bit. And then there's one more example. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I'm really excited about this question from Rahu. Yeah, this is exactly where we're starting and where we are. Like I said, it's in what we call a closed beta, where some customers already have this. But this is the exact, you're hitting it head on, Rahu. This is sort of the exact first tier functionality that we're tackling with our assistants right now. So I'll be excited to see what we can do together and how you find it when you get your hands on it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And hopefully, Roger, that answers the question. Let us know if it doesn't. And so we answered the what if I want to do. I have a question.
Barsha.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's Barsha. Yeah.
Oh, Barsha, sorry about that. Thank you. Question in regard to just how Seeq is addressing AI model hallucinations, like especially when dealing with business critical time series data and more analytical insights. Andres, any thoughts on that one? Or Christian, do you want to chime in there?
Let Christian go first, and then
sure. Yeah. So that's the I don't know if that takeaway slide was important because that's the tinkering part of it, right? And that's what the whole point is, having ISVs like Seeq and other ones that I work with, is they mitigate those hallucinations. Like if you were to do this yourself, you're going to get hallucinations. You know, the deeper the thread, the more hallucinations you can get, and so we're continually working on that improvements just out of the box as well. So we'll continue to work with Seeq to make sure that they have access to those bigger models, that they have larger, we call tokens, so you can throw more at them. The conversations can be longer. It remembers more. I mean, they're getting better and better. But what Seeq has already done is they've jumped ahead of that and they've tuned it themselves to minimize hallucinations. And that's part of the testing process. You make sure that, you know, what you're asking for is what you're getting. Because there's this, you know, like I said, there's this big genie, as Andre's saying, and it does able to create semantics that you hadn't thought of, right? So using language and like, hey, how does this really relate? Is there other things going on here that the model may provide some insight into? So it's really kind of a best of both worlds. It's the domain expertise of Seeq kind of matched with all of the data that's already in the large language model that you can use and bring to bear. But you just have to make sure that you continue to tinker and those models don't drift. And that's exactly why we continue to partner with Seeq to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Great. So I'll provide maybe a little bit more on the technical side. We obviously, as Christian mentioned, did a lot of work in tuning these models so that they understand, for example, the Seeq constructs and formula language and APIs. So there's a lot of work that falls on our side. And then from a architecture of the system, I think it's really important to understand that we have a couple of constructs to mitigate the problem of hallucinations. One is that in almost all cases, you'll get, like I was saying, step-by-step explanations and references to the source documents or ground truth if it is referring to data, so you can verify. So those are very important constructs. And then the other mechanism that we are putting together, obviously this is not on general availability, so we haven't quite seen its effectiveness, but we believe will help a lot, is a feedback mechanism to sort of learn, particularly from questions and answers that may not be quite right. And the last thing that I want to say is that there is maybe the challenge is a little bit different from what we've seen, that plain hallucinations. Hallucinations probably is less of an issue with all the post-processing and pre-processing that we're doing. But what we've seen is that still there is meaning, what the models can understand based on your question is sometimes it's not really hallucinating, but it's not really understanding what you might be asking, or maybe not understanding exactly the context around it. So that's an area that we see a lot of improvements, like Christian was mentioning, not just on the infrastructure, but also on the usage patterns, and even in the design of our software and the user interface in particular, so that the models, when they receive a question, they not only get a short snippet of intention from you, but that they can get, for example, surrounding context of the data that you're looking on the screen, for example, within Seeq, and can have more to really understand the meaning behind it. So hopefully I give you a lot of details to begin to understand how we face it.
No, that's great. Thank you both. I just so appreciate all of the conversation here, the details around where we're at with Industry 4.0 and the progress that's been made, research that you provided, Andres, and then getting into the specifics around the AI and approaches, and just giving some scenarios and examples to everyone on the call. So big thank you, Andres. Thank you, Christian. Thank you to everyone who participated in the chat with the great questions and comments. As a next step, this URL was included for more information on industrial analytics, and the info@seeq.com. If you want to continue the dialogue and this conversation, definitely reach out to that alias, and the Seeq team will connect with you. So with that, I just want to say a great thank you. Appreciate all the participation and thoughtfulness today in the conversation. And thank you, and have a good day. Take good care. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.